So I'm going to do a video about Warren Slaney, possibly one of Britain's biggest miscarriages of justice. He spent 34 years in prison for 2 murders, which he has always maintained his innocence on. And there are plenty of videos about Warren Slaney, about the person he is in prison. And Yami B's done a couple of videos on him. And I've got nothing more to add because I don't know him that well. I've done a few bits of jail with him. But there are quite a few videos which detail his case. I'll give a brief background to the case and the evidence against him, or a lack of evidence against him, more like. But there's a situation which I always felt may have hindered his progress, and that is Warren Slaney's reputation, as many people deem him as racist and far-right. And I think that may hinder his progress because of the prison law firm especially, and the general incompetence of the CCRC. And I just don't think there are many people in the law industry or in authorities as well that just want him out because his reputation is just as an unpleasant character, should we say. I know he does have a lot of support, and I know there's a lot of people who will always fight his corner, but there are people, for example, in Prisoners Advice Service, which are linked to far left groups. The Prisoners Advice Service is one of the biggest prison law and advice groups that there is, but they are also linked to groups such as the Revolutionary Communist Group, who produced the Fight Racism, Fight Imperialist newspaper. And he's not a prisoner who lawyers will bend over backwards for. There are certain prisoners, such as Kevin Thackeray, who becomes a bit of a cult hero to prison law firms and there are many prisoners, such as certain terrorists and stuff, that many prison law firms will absolutely go out their way for to help. And when I was in dispersal, there was a lot of rumours that a lot of terrorists would have prison law firms. They would write letters to them in Rule 39 mails to get messages across to other prisoners. I'm going to bring this video up here by Carlon Robinson, and this is, I've turned the volume down, so this is a flavour of what some people say about him. So we call him the notorious racist prisoner Warren Slaney, who would attack black or Muslims at random and shout verbal racist abuse at them. While located in a prison segregation unit block, Warren is renowned for spending hours every day shouting vile racist abuse and making monkey chants and disrespectful comments regarding Allah. He was rushed by the one-hand bandit, that's Dinah, Ricky Sweeney, who's a very annoying prisoner. And there's plenty of stories about that, but I won't go into that story. And DC, that's Daniel Cummins, smashed him over the head, solo with a weapon. So, I mean, if you want to watch the videos by Yami B, he does some very good videos on him. He's a good storyteller. He's been at this YouTube prison things for many years, and he does some good content. But there's not much in the comments regarding it. But I've known loads of prisoners to go telling stories about other prisoners to prison lawyers, even petty stuff like, oh, he's a snitch, you shouldn't represent him and stuff like that. So I have no doubt that people go to prison lawyers and they all know the reputation of Warren Slaney. And I'm not labelling him racist or far right, but I'm aware that that's his reputation. And I'm going to bring this conversation thread up from Reddit. So this was talking about the CCRC. I'm going to come to the CCRC in a minute. But this just kind of shows how some people view him. So this was someone who said his dad knew he was guilty. He used to tell me that he was the hardest cunt in British prison. He was absolutely guilty of the murders, and he'd only maintained his innocence until his mum passed away. So he said stories painted Warren in a less than flattering light. Never knew him, but passing on. But there's another piece here that goes to say, so there's obviously a bit of a campaign against him to say, how he was an unpleasant character and he wasn't, a very nice person. But it goes on to show here, I was a friend of the family many years ago. Warren was a sod, borstal at a young age and a terror in the borstal, and he badly hurt a screw with a hammer. So he was hated by the authorities and stitched up by the police, innocent of the killings. So there's a lot of people who do want him out of the way. And I have no love for him. And if people on the left can celebrate Charlie Kirk being murdered, then it is easy to see how they would quite happily have a man spend 33 years in prison for something that he didn't commit. But I'm going to bring this up. This is the main case of the evidence against him. So it says on the 10th of October, Warren Slaney was arrested and charged with the murder of 2 men, Gary Thompson and John Weston, in Leicester. The murders took place at 2 a.m. outside the house of Gary and Mavis Thompson. The police suggested that they were directly involved in an armed robbery that backfired. But the physical descriptions given by eyewitnesses do not match Warren Slaney's appearance, and the perpetrators were seen as over 6 foot tall and the same build as Gary Thompson, which is about 21 stone. So, I mean, Warren Slaney's 5'8", he's white, he's clean-shaven and had short hair. But Warren Slaney had an alibi. He was at a party where 9 witnesses actually testified, said he was there till around 4:30 a.m. A crucial prosecution witness testified in court that she falsified a statement to the police, which implicated Warren Slaney in a robbery. The man who disposed of the gun also later admitted that Warren had nothing to do with the murders, and the statement was not used in court. There was also medical evidence that said he had metal plates inserted into his hand through injuries which would have made him incapable of pulling the trigger on a Beretta handgun. And there's also no forensic evidence whatsoever linking him to the murders, and his house was searched 4 times by police. And there's also fighting against the general incompetence of the Criminal Cases Review Commission, which a Justice Committee report in May this year said it needed root and branch reform, which said it shows a remarkable inability to learn from its mistakes. In January, the CCRC's chair, Helen Pitcher, resigned in the wake of a decision by an independent panel. The CCRC has been in a bit of a pickle since the Andrew Malkinson case, where there's been several meetings and committees regarded, and the Justice Committee called on senior leadership of the CCRC to give evidence following Miss Pitcher's resignation. Following several criticisms of the organisation, the committee's report on the leadership of the CCRC was published in May, which comes ahead of an expected review how the organisation operates to be conducted by the yet-to-be-appointed interim chair. But skipping ahead here, it says the committee described the CCRC's leadership handling of the independent Henley report, which followed, as incompetent, concluding that a level of delay in the attempt to minimise the damage to the CCR's reputation were a spectacular failure of leadership. It added, in our view, Chris Henley's assessment of the work done by the CCRC was damning, and that the mistakes made in relation to the Andrew Malkinson case should have been taken as evidence of systematic problems within the CCRC. So I'm going to highlight 2 other things here in this report. It says it's operating without a full quota of commissioners and delays to their recruitment as serious and urgent issues for the CCRC. And the report said adding to the CCRC leadership does not appear to us to be treating this issue with the seriousness it warrants. And also, and this is a key finding, it went on, we are concerned about the CCRC's independence and its relationship with the Ministry of Justice. Independence requires the chair and senior leadership to prioritise and defend the interests of the constitutional function of the institution above all. In practice, this does not appear to be happening. We recommend that the interim chair considers the dynamic of the relationship between the Commission and the Ministry of Justice and how the Commission's robust approach to its dealing with the department. So in other words, he has got a mountain to climb with biased lawyers and an incompetent and currently unfunctional CCRC, of which he has to navigate.